Electric vehicles, the only way to save the Earth. Just about every government and environmental group is demanding that everyone buy an EV as fast as possible to save the climate change. I have 3 stories that will change your mind forever about electric vehicles. The first story starts in the ocean, the North Sea. It's about 17 miles north of the Dutch island of Ameland. A cargo ship was carrying about 3,000 vehicles, leaving Germany heading to Egypt. Only 25 of the vehicles were EVs. But, as I have said many times before, EVs have a tendency to catch fire. Anybody want to guess what happened? Yep, one of them burst into flames. As the toxic smoke filled the cargo hold, one of the workers on the ship died. Now, several other crew members attempted to put the fire out using fire extinguishers, but as everyone knows, they don't work on EV battery fires. It takes special chemicals, or literally millions of gallons of water, to even try to put out a battery fire. See, EV batteries are made with lithium, and when you add water to lithium, it explodes and bursts into flames. It's the kind of fire you just can't put out. But it gets worse. The one car fire spread to other cars. So now they have multiple cars on fire and they can't put any of them out. Several of the crew members jumped off the ship because the heat or the smoke was worse than jumping off a giant ship. This is about the same as jumping off of a 10-story building. You ever see the end of Titanic where some people jumped hundreds of feet into the water? It probably looked like that. They were rescued by the Coast Guard. Broken bones and smoke inhalation were the most common injuries, and everyone is expected to live. When the Coast Guard arrived, they pumped millions of gallons of water to try and put out the fires. And no, it didn't help that much. However, it did produce a giant cloud of toxic smoke. That smoke goes on for miles. Is that the good kind of toxic smoke that helps the climate change? Or is it the kind of toxic smoke that helps the plants and animals and people breathe better? This is an environmental disaster. Now, the Coast Guard was asked if the cargo ship could sink, and they said, "It's a possibility." They called a local salvage company to try and stabilize it, maybe minimize damage, and possibly drag it from the bottom of the ocean when it inevitably sinks. That might be the only way to put that damn fire out. Just hold it underwater for a day or two. Let's see if that does it. But there is some good news. It's a good thing they were so close to land, so they could be rescued quickly. There was only one death, and that's a situation that could have gone in a completely different direction. But it gets worse. It's not important that they were close to shore. It's important which shore they were close to. Its location is close to a chain of Dutch and German islands, popular with tourists in the shallow Wadden Sea, a World Heritage listed area described by UNESCO as, quote, the largest unbroken system of intertidal sand and mud flats in the world, and one of the most important areas for migratory birds in the world, end quote. Everyone knows that EV drivers are Greenpeace, hippie, peace sign, environmentalists, so this must make them so proud that the purchase of an EV could do so much to help the world's largest migratory bird sanctuary. Can you imagine the toxic damage that would happen if this ship actually sinks? EVs are not good for the planet. I've been saying this for as long as I can remember. I don't know how much longer it will take for everyone to realize this is a scam. But I hope it happens soon. Or do we need to lose another migratory bird sanctuary to make my point? I've made the case that EV batteries are dangerous and tend to catch fire. I made a video a few weeks ago about the e-bike fires. There's a link up there. I made some predictions, and I didn't have to wait too long for some of those predictions to come true. Lithium-ion batteries have sparked hundreds of fires across New York and San Francisco this year. injuring dozens and resulting in the death of a few individuals, triggering worries about ongoing public safety, just like I said it would. These e-bikes, scooters, hoverboards, unicycles, they're all ticking time bombs. As of this week, there have been 131 fires, 76 injuries, 13 deaths caused exclusively by lithium-ion batteries. On January 20th of this year, a 63-year-old man was killed and 10 more were injured after a fire from charging an e-bike spread through a home in Queens. In April, a teenager and a 7-year-old child died in a home, also in Queens, due to a fire that erupted from an e-bike. And on May 7th, 4 people died from a lithium battery fire that blazed through an apartment building in Upper Manhattan, just like I said it would. E-bikes are dangerous, expensive, and stupid. Remember when we just had regular bikes? The worst thing that happened was you got a little exercise while going from place to place. Oh, the horror! Now, New York City Mayor Eric Adams promotes e-bikes as convenient transportation. But now that it is becoming obvious, even to a leftist, that this solution doesn't really solve anything, but in fact makes just about everything worse. So what does a sneaky leftist do to solve the problem that he helped promote? More laws! Of course, more laws. A bill enacted in March seeks to prohibit the sale, lease, or rental of e-bikes and other such mobility devices, as well as their storage batteries in New York, which fail to meet certain safety standards. So get this. Now that you purchased your expensive e-bike, you have to take it to a government office and pay to get it inspected and registered for the right to use your own bike. But what if it doesn't pass the inspection? Guess what? You just lost your bike. Don't worry, it's for your safety. Okay, EVs are dangerous. They can kill you, destroy your home, pollute the ocean, ruin wildlife habitat. So who thought this was a good idea? Follow the money, they said. Okay, well, let's go there next. Who is making money on these forced adoption movements? Perhaps Ford Motor Company? They stopped making cars a few years ago. Seriously, they don't make any regular sedans anymore. In fact, the only car they have left is the Mustang. Everything else is a large SUV or electric, or an electric SUV. Well, according to Forbes magazine, Ford is expected to lose $4.5 billion on EVs this year. $4.5 billion. Any guesses how much Ford loses for every EV that they sell? $66,000 per vehicle. They lose $66,000 every time they sell an electric car. Now, this info comes from the Motley Fool. I'll link to it below. You can read the data. I'm not making that number up. How much longer can Ford keep up this nonsense? If you were a stockholder in Ford Motor Company, I'd be making some phone calls. This sounds like they could be sued for fiduciary irresponsibility or something. This rush to EV has been a disaster for Ford. Their prices are up, sales are down, plus build quality is in the basement. Ford had thousands of recalls on the newer models, ranging from loss of steering at highway speeds to engine fires with oil leaks for their hybrid models. I'm not sure what Ford is doing, but putting all their eggs in one electric vehicle basket seems like they're trying to be the next Kmart. What, you never heard of Kmart? That's my point. They're basically non-existent now. So EVs are dangerous, expensive, bad for the environment, and no one makes any money on them. Am I missing something? Who thought this would be a great idea? Why are people buying them? But what about Tesla? Tesla makes great cars and they make a ton of money. Do they? Tesla needed billions and billions of taxpayer dollars to get started and to keep the company alive. Now, sure, it does make money now, and they paid back the loans. But I want to make a prediction. What about those batteries? I mean, the ones that don't catch fire. Have you checked used Tesla prices? They're falling fast. It turns out you can buy some used ones for less than $20,000 now. As these vehicles get older, the battery loses its ability to hold a charge. 200 miles of range when they're brand new, but that can fall to 100 miles or less if not properly maintained or if it's been charged and drained and recharged a lot of cycles. And then recycling. Here's where my prediction comes in. No one has found an efficient way to recycle these batteries. These batteries are made with precious rare earth metals dug up by children in faraway lands. My prediction is that these batteries are going to become a liability. When they're dead, you can't sell them. You can't recycle them. You can't bury them in a landfill. You can't sell them to China. You can't launch them into space. What do you do with them? Who knows? But whatever you do, don't get them wet because then they burst into flames. So who's ready? Who's ready to rush right out and buy an overpriced EV to help save the climate change? Not me. I don't think I'm ever going to buy one. So I hope you enjoyed this. Maybe you learned a little something new, had a little fun. I'm going to go make some more content. Subscribe if you want to see what's next. I appreciate it. See you tomorrow.